Welcome to Top 30. Here are today's top 30 stories in 30 minutes. Did you get a raise at work over the last year? If you said no, you're like most other Americans. A new study by Bankrate found 52% of workers did not get a raise over the last 12 months. The same survey last year led to similar results. 50% of people said they did not get more money. 10% of the people who did get a raise did so by switching jobs completely. Inflation for the first half of this year was 2.2%, meaning people with flat salaries have less buying power. The survey also found that most Americans get a raise at least once every other year. So if you didn't get a pay increase this year, you can keep hope alive for next year.
More women have accused Senate candidate Roy Moore of sexual misconduct. The Washington Post this week published 2 more accounts from women who say they were approached by Moore while working at an Alabama mall in the 70s while they were teenagers. Gina Richardson says she was repeatedly asked out by Moore before going on a date where he gave her a kiss she described as forceful. Becky Gray says she was pursued by Moore so often she complained to her manager. Moore's attorney called a press conference Wednesday to cast doubt on the story of yet another accuser. Beverly Young Nelson told the media this week Moore assaulted her in a car while she was 16. She displayed a yearbook with an inscription reading, "Love Roy Moore." Moore's lawyer had suggested the signature was forged. Senate Republicans, including Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, have called on Moore to bow out of Alabama's special election, but Moore has so far refused. Interestingly, experts tell NPR that legitimately elected senators cannot be barred from taking office, and no senators have actually been expelled from the chamber since the Civil War. Moore has denied any wrongdoing, but hasn't ruled out having dated teens while he was in his 30s.
These are your quick hits. The 3 UCLA basketball players who were held in China for shoplifting have been indefinitely suspended from the team. Coach Steve Alford said the boys will have to, quote, earn their way back. The freshmen LiAngelo Ball, Cody Riley, and Jalen Hill issued apologies during a press conference on Wednesday. Pope Francis was gifted a special edition Lamborghini Huracan at the Vatican this week, and the photo is almost too much. Valued at upwards of $200,000, the Vatican plans to auction the car off with proceeds going to 3 charities. And check this out as Drake interrupted his show to call out a handsy guy in the crowd. If you see something, say something. Thank you, Drake.
Let's go to the New York Stock Exchange for our Fox Business Minute with your friend and mine, Nicole Pedalides. Nicole, I'm hearing that Google Maps is switching it up.
That's right, Richard. Google Maps is getting a redesign to a look that the company says better reflects your immediate location. Some of the changes include an update to the driving, navigation, and transit feature of Maps by Experience. You'll feel proud today if you're a fan of Apple, Google, and HP. These companies got high marks from an advocacy group that looks at how companies get materials in conflict-ridden countries. Minerals such as gold and tin were key. Signet and Tiffany also did well, but some other jewelry companies got the lowest marks. Amazon is cutting prices again at Whole Foods ahead of the holidays. While this may be good news for customers, not everyone is rejoicing.
Nicole, competitors must be concerned about how these cheaper prices are going to affect them.
That's right, Richard. This is pretty much what the grocers have been fearing since Amazon's acquisition of Whole Foods. But in the end, it could mean better service, products, and pricing. Shares of Costco, Target, Kroger, those were lower on the news. So we'll have to keep an eye on what happens with these price wars. More Top 30 when we return.
NASA scientists announced they captured spectacular images of a colossal iceberg as it split and broke off from one of the largest floating ice shelves in Antarctica. According to the Washington Post, the iceberg is so big, it's roughly the size of Delaware, making it one of the most enormous pieces of ice to break off in recorded history. Satellite images from July show the 2,200 square mile iceberg detaching and snapping off from the larger ice shelf called Larsen C. Scientists spotted the 100-mile-long crack, better known as A68, and had been watching it progress for months. Nathan Kurtz, a scientist with the NASA-led initiative Operation Iceberg, surveyed the damage and said to see it fully detached, to see this massive block of ice floating out there was pretty shocking. Ice shelves have become more vulnerable thanks to rising global temperatures, which leads to the thinning of the ice and eventually it's breaking away from the shelves.
Ben Ryan's son, Saul, was born with a blood clot in his left arm, causing his parents to make the heartbreaking decision to amputate the newborn's arm. They were told by the United Kingdom's National Health Service Saul wouldn't be issued a prosthetic arm for a year. And for children under 3, standard prosthetics are often rigid with 0 hand movement. Because of this, Ben felt he had to step up and help his son. The former psychology teacher, with no background in engineering, immersed himself in the world of prosthetics. Using an Xbox scanner, Ben worked to find a system that makes a grippable arm in under a week. And not only that, he accomplished this for less than $250. Recently, he began trials with his new company, Ambionics, to see if his innovation can help other families avoid not only the wait, but the expense associated with prosthetics. It goes to show there's nothing a parent won't do for their kid.
President Trump called the opioid epidemic the worst drug crisis in American history and declared a public health emergency in response to the outbreak. New research into treatment is finding an option that is saving lives. Jason Bellini has more in this week's Wall Street Journal Moving Upstream report.
Hi, Richard. Among addiction experts, there's now a widely agreed upon option for treating opioid addicts. It's called medication-assisted treatment, or MAT for short. Doctors prescribe 3 medications to treat opioid addiction. The first is naltrexone. It blocks the brain's opioid receptors. The other 2 are methadone and buprenorphine. They're themselves opioids. They prevent painful withdrawal symptoms and suppress drug cravings. Methadone must be dispensed in clinics, and only authorized physicians can prescribe buprenorphine. Here's the thing, most inpatient rehab facilities don't offer medication-assisted treatment. We visited one such facility in Huntington, West Virginia, called Recovery Point.
We've been talking to some of the top medical professionals in the country. Do you know what they're telling us?
Medicaid-assisted treatment is the best practice.
That's what they're telling us. They're wrong?
I don't think they're wrong. I think that we have to have a multitude of pathways.
The other thing we found, a serious shortage of doctors in rural America that are able to prescribe these medications to opioid addicts.
Thank you, Jason. And you can watch the whole story, The Way to Save Opioid Addicts, at wsj.com/upstream.
Scary moments for a California couple as they watched their son fly off a water slide at a new water park. The incident happened in May and was caught on video. The boy was 10 years old at the time, and the video shows him come off the slide and land on a concrete surface. He suffered abrasions on his head, back, arms, and legs. This week, the parents filed a $2.5 million lawsuit against the city of Dublin, California, which runs the water park, the state of California, and the slide manufacturer. The city of Dublin released a statement saying, in part, the city and its representatives have attempted to reach an amicable settlement with the family. However, the family lawyer has refused to provide any information about the family's injuries that would be necessary to resolve the claim. The family disputes that and says medical records were handed over to the city. Wilbur Jones is a free man this week after serving nearly 46 years for a crime he didn't commit. Jones was 19 years old when he was arrested on the suspicion of the rape of a nurse in 1971. According to the Associated Press, a judge overturned Jones's rape conviction, saying the case against him was weak at best and that authorities withheld evidence that could have exonerated him decades ago. 15 years after the Innocence Project took on Jones's case, he can now reclaim the life that was taken away from him. At age 65, Jones is entering an entirely new world than the one he left. Yet surprisingly, he's not bitter at all.
No, I'm not afraid, because like I said, I got God on my footsteps. You know, I got a family that love me, and they're gonna show me, and they're gonna teach me.
What a perspective. We wish Wilbur Jones great success in this new chapter of life.
The Trump administration has reversed an Obama-era ban on importing trophies of elephants killed in Zambia and Zimbabwe. The Endangered Species Act allows the government to give permits to import animal remains if there is evidence that hunting benefits the conservation of that species. But that theory that you can kill elephants to save elephants is hotly contested. Hunters, which have included Donald Trump's sons, typically pay hefty fees to local government agencies. Some of that money is fed back for conservation. In Zambia, the number of elephants has declined from 200,000 in 1972 to a little over 21,000 last year. The Humane Society of the United States attacked the decision, calling Zimbabwe one of the most corrupt countries on earth, adding, "What kind of message does it send to say to the world that poor Africans who are struggling to survive cannot kill elephants to make a living, but that it's just fine for rich Americans to slay the beasts to keep as trophies?"
In today's Hometown Stories from Fox 4 Dallas, several veterans invited to this year's Sky Ball thought they were simply attending an event in honor of Veterans Day. But more was in store for them. Dustin Paulson, Demondre McGee, and Clinton Woodford were all surprised with cars.
He was describing the young Marine, and I was like, wait a minute, it kind of sounds like something I've done. And so when they say Lance Corporal McGee, I was lost for words.
The vehicles were provided by Allstate Insurance and refurbished through Caliber Collision's Recycled Rides program, which gives back to military heroes who've dedicated their lives to our country. Our next story from Fox 13 Tampa Bay. For the un- and underinsured, high medical costs make doctor visits nearly impossible, which is why the recent remote area medical event in Bradenton, Texas was so successful.
We got a lot of people in middle-class America that cannot afford the high cost of dentistry and the high cost of a simple pair of glasses.
The doctors who donated their services were able to help over 1,000 people at the event.
It's just an honor to be able to provide something at least.
Our final story from Fox 11 LA. Hundreds of students spent the day at Universal Studios Hollywood. It was part of the 13th annual Day of Giving, hosted by Universal and LA-based charities. Homeless students are gifted free passes, school supplies, and new clothing. When life can be a struggle, it's nice to have a day where a kid can be a kid.
A new company wants to give you another option besides taking the elevator or stairs. It is called Vical and combines an elevator and a bike. The woman behind the project says she has a passion for the interaction of machines and humans, which led her to come up with the idea. The Vical is attached to a vertical rail and can be fitted inside or outside most buildings. So the inventor says that it can be used indoors as a healthy alternative to going up or down a few floors, or outside of a building during a construction project like a scaffolding or crane. She admits this is a working prototype and needs more work before it is safe and ready for widespread use.
It looks like Taylor Swift's not hurting her reputation with her newest album. She just broke another record, one that she set herself. According to Billboard, Taylor's latest release, Reputation, has sold over 1 million albums in its first week of sales. That makes her the only artist ever to have 4 consecutive albums top 1 million in sales in their opening week. Taylor previously set the record with her last album, 2014's 1989. And Swift's not just garnering commercial success. Critics have reacted warmly to her latest release, which has been described as her most sonically adventurous album to date. And it looks like Taylor's endgame is to keep cashing in on Reputation's success. She just announced a 2018 stadium tour. Tickets go on sale on her birthday, December 13th.
The Long Road Home is a miniseries airing on Nat Geo that focuses on the day of the Iraq War known as Black Sunday. Some of these surviving soldiers were used as technical advisors during production to add to the series' authenticity. More now in this week's Nat Geo Minute.
There are folks that run away from the sound of battle, and then there are folks that run towards the noise of the guns. And we are those guys that move towards danger. That's our job.
I've served with a lot of great men, a lot of great women, but that particular group have become my family.
You know what else I've been thinking about? It's what we should do when we get out of here, man.
Yeah?
Yeah. I always wanted to open up a guitar shop. We'll just hang out, play some awesome tunes. We'll even get my dad involved, you know, like make it a whole little family business.
Yeah.
I never had a brother before you, so.
Multiple times I know guys put their lives on the line for me. And I know there were times when I did the same for other people. And that doesn't go away.
But right now, on this roof, my responsibility is to the safety of all of these men, okay? Everyone. And I need you here with me. You understand? I need you.
The Long Road Home airs Tuesdays at 10, 9 Central on National Geographic.
A futuristic form of transportation that will zip people around town at 200 miles per hour is one step closer for people in Denver. The Colorado Department of Transportation announced a partnership with a company called Areevo. The company is creating a series of above-ground tubes that use magnetic levitation to speed vehicles around the city. The tubes would follow existing highway routes. Areevo says the goal is to connect people with key destinations throughout the city and reduce a 1-hour drive to about an 8-minute commute. The company plans to break ground next year and says the first tracks are expected to be ready by 2021. We have an update on an inspiring story you first saw on Top 30 about Chi-Chi the dog. Chi-Chi was found in a dumpster in South Korea, brutally abused and left for dead, her legs literally rotting away from the wires her attackers wrapped around them. As the story goes, Chi-Chi was rescued, had all 4 paws amputated, and was adopted by a loving family in Phoenix, Arizona that helped her get new prosthetic paws. Well, this weekend, for the first time, Chi-Chi met another inspiration. 10-year-old Owen. Owen was tragically burned to over 98% of his body when he was 2 years old, and like Chi-Chi, had to get new prosthetic legs. Owen told the Fox affiliate in Phoenix that meeting Chi-Chi was a dream come true. They've both been through hard times and are enjoying a new lease on life despite their adversity. Owen's mom, Susan, says she doesn't want anyone to feel sorry for her son. Instead, they should celebrate his accomplishments. Susan also said something I think we can all take to heart, and this story is the perfect example that there's still more good in this world than there is bad.
Hospitals across America are running dangerously low on IV bags. Small saline bags are everywhere in modern hospitals. They are the preferred method for delivering hundreds of drugs, from antibiotics to heart medication. They normally cost about $1.50 each. Bloomberg reports that the biggest supplier of saline bags, Baxter Pharmaceuticals, has 3 factories in Puerto Rico at partial capacity after Hurricane Maria ravaged the island. The shortage is not solely due to the storm. B. Braun Medical is another top manufacturer of IV bags, and they're under investigation by the Food and Drug Administration after reports of what could be leaky and moldy bags. A third manufacturer, ICU Medical, is allegedly struggling to meet demand as a result of issues at the other 2 companies. The manufacturers are now rationing the bags to prevent one hospital from buying the entire supply. And some hospitals are also rationing the bags, evaluating patients before putting them on IVs for hydration and giving them more drugs in pill form. The FDA says they will temporarily allow imports of saline bags and speed up the review process for drug makers. In a letter to Congress, the American Hospital Association warned we are on the brink of a significant public health crisis. Sometimes it really can be weeks and months before we get to see all of the many unexpected consequences of a major hurricane.
You can be chilled to the bone, but did you know your bones are also sensitive to air pollution? Studies posted in the Lancet Planetary Health found links between long-term air pollution and osteoporosis. Analyzing 9.2 million Medicare enrollees in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic region of the U.S., researchers determined those living in locations with higher air pollution were 4.1% more likely to be admitted to the hospital for osteoporosis bone fractures. That statistic jumped to 7.6% in lower-income neighborhoods. A similar study in Boston showed lowered levels of the calcium-regulating hormone parathyroid and more bone loss over time in polluted areas. So I think it's safe to say pollution isn't safe for your bones, or any part of your body for that matter.
That is it for today's Top 30. Here are some stories coming up in our next show. A new report says airlines have a way of reporting lost baggage that might work in their favor, but not yours. We'll have the latest. A Da Vinci work of art has sold for a record $450 million, but it's controversial for a different reason. And a father who couldn't find any superheroes that had the same health condition as his son, so he decided to do something about it. All these stories and more coming up on the next Top 30.